Number 12. We behave, perform roles, as we think the role or roles should be performed, e.g., daughter or son, mother or father, etc. This is known as role-taking. We also assume that others we encounter will behave as we would behave if we were in their roles, that they will conform to a community standard or model. By adapting our behavior accordingly, the expected behavior or the perspective of the other is acting upon us. As we try to guess the intentions of the other is impacting our behavior. For example, if you smile at someone while at a party, it may be your way of attempting to make the person's acquaintance. If someone smiles back at you, your assumption is that he or she has the same intentions as you, to make your acquaintance. Your behavior then may be to initiate a conversation with the person based on the smile, being an assumed symbol or sign of cordiality. Number 13. Which comes first, the site or the plan for the house? I advise my clients to choose the site first. This allows you to design a house to fit the land. You wouldn't buy a rug and then figure out what room it fits in later on. I believe a house should grow from its site and not look like it has been imported and dropped there haphazardly. If you have already selected your architect, bring him along to offer his opinion on the sites you are considering. He may well see things about a site that you may not see. The site you have in mind might not be appropriate for the house you desire. How many times have we seen houses placed awkwardly on a slope when the house design would clearly have been more comfortable on a flat site? Developments of tract houses are fertile ground for examples of house designs that were poorly fitted to their sites. These mismatches of house to site are akin to wearing a tuxedo with tennis shoes. Number 14. Office workers can sometimes choose their own desk setups, integrating exercise on an individual basis. But businesses have compelling reasons to incorporate such radical ideas into company policy as well. Business leaders already know that if employees exercised regularly, it would reduce healthcare costs. There's no question that halving someone's lifetime risk of a debilitating stroke or Alzheimer's disease is a wonderfully humanitarian thing to do. But exercise also could boost the collective brain power of an organization. Fit employees are more capable than sedentary employees of mobilizing their God-given IQs. For companies whose competitiveness rests on creative intellectual horsepower, such mobilization could mean a strategic advantage. In the laboratory, regular exercise improves problem-solving abilities, fluid intelligence, and even memory, sometimes dramatically so. It's worth finding out whether the same is true in business settings, too. Number 15. It is very important in the information age to understand the difference between knowledge and information. What is accessible by computer, and indeed what is published in the journals, is information. Knowledge is something that has to be constructed in the mind of the expert reader. This is what scholarship is about. Information is, these days, instantly accessible, but knowledge still takes years of dedicated study to acquire. Imagine that a freak accident wiped out an entire field of experts on a subject while all were attending a conference. How long would it take to reconstruct expertise in the field so that research could once again progress? It would probably take many years, despite the fact that their research was all published. To take another example, what do producers of science documentaries for television programs do when they are researching their subjects? They talk to the experts rather than trying to read the journals. Quite rightly, as that is the only place that knowledge is to be found, inside the heads of the scholars. Number 16. When people want to react correctly to a persuasive message but don't have the motivation or ability to think about it deeply, there is a shortcut they can take. They can observe the responses of others to the message. For example, if under such conditions you heard a political speech and everyone in the audience around you responded enthusiastically to it, you might well conclude that the speech was a good one and become persuaded in its direction. In addition, the more consensus you witnessed among audience members, the more likely you would be to follow their lead, even if you didn't initially agree with them. It's for this reason that interrogators are taught to say to a suspect, "We believe you are guilty," rather than "I believe you are guilty." Number 17. Popular participation in conflict in the 19th century cannot be understood without examining the role of empire. Individuals had always gone to the colonies for profit or to settle, but individuals also participated in 19th century imperial campaigns for a novel reason. Hannah Arendt later dismissively characterized imperialism as the export of superfluous men and superfluous capital. She was correct that colonial functionaries were often from marginal populations. Cecil Rhodes, after all, would advocate imperialism to settle surplus population and thus avoid civil war. But these marginalized individuals increasingly used their participation in colonial conflicts to make claims to membership in the home nation. Scots, for example, were excluded from membership of the English community. But by participating in the wars against France and the Empire in India, they became part of the British nation, increasing the war-fighting capacity of the latter. Empire was a crucial mechanism in constructing the exchange in the 19th century. Number 18. Agricultural effects on water quality can occur at local, regional, and national scales. For example, increased levels of nutrients from agricultural fertilizers can stimulate algal blooms and affect the ecology of local streams. Nitrate and some chemical weed killers can move through the soil to groundwater and eventually to local streams. Farther downstream, these elevated nutrients can increase costs associated with treating the water so that it is suitable for drinking. Ultimately, chemicals associated with agricultural activities, such as nutrients and pesticides, and sediment, eroded soil, empty into our river mouths and can harm valuable commercial and recreational fisheries. Elevated nutrient inputs stimulate harmful algal blooms along the U.S. coasts, causing negative economic impacts. Number 19. Many sociologists identify themselves as researchers to the people they study. They do not worry that revealing their true identity will change their subjects' behavior. They are not overly concerned that subjects will hide secrets from them. Usually, they strive to minimize these problems by not getting too deeply involved with their subjects while simultaneously establishing a good rapport with them. This is not easy to accomplish, though. Nevertheless, such efforts have paid off, as indicated by some sociological insights that have emerged from their work. Herbert Ganz, for example, became a participant observer in a poor Italian neighborhood in Boston in the late 1950s. On the surface, the neighborhood looked like a badly organized place, an urban jungle of its period. Yet Ganz discovered that it was a well-organized community, an urban village rather than a jungle, where the residents enjoyed close social relationships with one another.